Seattle is in a state of emergency. The mayor declared it in November, said he should have even done it sooner. Last night's shootout shows why. 2 people were killed, 3 more wounded at a homeless encampment. The mayor says no large American city can deal with a large homeless crisis without state and federal partners' help. Former Reagan economic advisor Art Laffer is with me now. Art, great to have you here. What do you think of Seattle Mayor Ed Murray's plea? That is to say, big cities need state help and federal help to combat homelessness.
Yeah, and the state help and federal help is not coming from spending money. Honestly, the reason why we have homelessness in part, I mean, obviously there's some people who are mentally ill and other reasons, but the growth in homelessness is really because of a bad economy and because of bad city, bad state, and bad country economic policies. And when you have a long-term decline like we've had in the U.S. over the past, what is it? It's almost 14 years. When you have it like that, you're going to get real problems like this. And they're not soluble by spending more money or by having homeless shelters. I mean, I think New York spends something like $17,000 per year per homeless person trying to find them shelter. And when you look at these numbers, I mean, it's not that. You need economic growth. You need prosperity jobs, and that means you got to have tax cuts, pro-growth, cutting government spending. You've got to have sound money, free trade, minimal regulations, and then get the heck out of the way and let the economy do the best job it can. And then those people who are left who really can't find jobs, who aren't capable of being employed, those you go in and help and do the best you can to make sure that they suffer the least. So,
Art, let me ask you, you mentioned New York, but what about Seattle? I mean, Murray is talking about cleaning up areas that have been used for 2 decades by a kind of transient population. He's talking about cleaning up garbage, human waste, drug needles. I mean, how does this happen in a place like Seattle?
Well, I don't know how it specifically happens in a place like Seattle, but if you look at the U.S. as a whole, all of the major cities have problems like this. And that is, my view, is almost entirely economic-based. When you say for the last 2 decades, you're right, Deirdre. The last 2 decades, W and Obama have been a huge change from Clinton. I mean, when Clinton left office, employment as a share of population was at 64.6% or something like that. It's dropped now down to 59.5%. It's a huge drop in employment output. Wages have stagnated. The world has gone very, very far south over the last 15 years. And frankly, this is the type of consequence you're going to find. This and crimes and all sorts of other sort of follow-ons. And you're not going to solve it by more government spending. I mean, the Flint River is another classic example of what happens when a society is in a tailspin and collapsing. The reason they switched from the Detroit water system to Flint River was because of money.
Yeah,
and because of
that
money,
was disturbing.
And they collect no bills. That water is, you know, in Detroit itself, they can't collect bills. People don't pay their bills. So therefore, they charge the other people far more than otherwise should be charged.
And
these are all economic-driven things that can only be solved by economic growth and prosperity.
People are dying or extremely hurt in both cases, to your point, Art.
Yeah, and it's all economics. And by the way, on Trump, if I could make one comment, Deirdre.
Please do.
Yeah, you know, Ronald Reagan did this exact same thing in Iowa, just before the Iowa primary, in a debate with George Bush and John Anderson. He did the exact same thing, and I dare say no one would call him a chicken, a coward, not able to deal with Gorbachev. This was the best president we've had in dealing with foreign policies. These people are in politics. And what you've got to understand is they're making political choices to how they play their hand.
Art, we love having these contextual points. You remember and you pointed out for us, Art Laffer. Thank you.
You know, Neil Cavuto called me the Yoda of economics. So
that's
thank
great.
You, Deirdre.
Slightly less green. We're so pleased to have you nonetheless. Art Laffer joining me there.